Hi there, Scott Wheeler here. I'd like to very quickly just have a look at what is transpiring in the world right at this moment. And what we're seeing globally is an incredible move towards and a push towards socialism. And why is it that we're moving in this direction? And I believe that this is what the globalists are using to ultimately take control of the globe and to bring about the rule, as we read in Revelations chapter 13, of the 10 kings who ultimately will be reduced to 7, and they will then give all their authority to one man who is the antichrist. And when you consider how this socialist agenda is playing out, and we look back at recent history, what we see through globalization, now that we're a global village and we trade so freely all over the world, what we've seen is a constant and a continual, going forward, undermining of nationalism. That is what's been broken down across the globe. Now we see this played out particularly within the European Union. And so all those nations, especially after the Second World War, they developed again a nationalistic pride. They were all independent nations. And then with the European Union, we've seen this eroding of nationalism by those member states. And I believe this is one of the tests or phases that the globalists implemented before it is implemented globally. Unfortunately, with Brexit, this became a major setback for the globalists, and Britain taking control of their own nation, being that sovereign nation, restoring the nationalistic pride back to their nation again, has been a blow to the globalist agenda. And we've seen this also in various other nations, especially in the United States, with Donald Trump having come to power and restoring nationalism back to the people of the United States of America. And so what we then see is through the undermining of nationalism and a move into globalism, is that the globalists really need for us to embrace a new set of laws and a new set of values and a new set of principles. And this has been pushed primarily, obviously, through the mainstream media and Hollywood, but particularly with the younger generation through social media and the internet. Definitely the younger generation are buying into a completely different set of values and are wanting different laws to be governed by. Now, when you consider the whole climate change agenda that was pushed on us from early 2000, and remember supposedly all the ice caps and that were going to melt, and the sea was going to rise, and millions of people's lives were going to be affected, and it was just going to wreak havoc all over the globe. And this in a sense became a massive scaremongering thing, and got all nations to start buying into global laws and global regulation. And this was a massive move by the globalists through the climate change agenda. And this became a religion. Obviously, certain nations weren't that convinced. Trump not buying into the climate change lie. But then the socialists and these globalists then got Greta to be the spokesperson for this younger generation that were definitely being shaped by these new rules and new values that would be imposed upon society. And so Greta travels the world trying to promote the globalist agenda through climate change. And yet the climate change has in fact become like a religion. And it's been promoted like that because this is Mother Earth. And if we destroy Mother Earth, it affects every single one of us. And so we've all got to buy into into this worship of Mother Earth and the protection of Mother Earth, because whatever one nation does affects other nations. And so the globalists have capitalized and used the climate change agenda aggressively. But now when you look at liberalism, and liberalism is this push towards individuals being free from any group. And so you're free from race and free from family and institutions. And particularly in America right now, you see this being played out by the groups like Antifa and even the Black Lives Matter movement, anti-institution. And they don't want to be controlled. They don't want to be forced into certain groups and categories anymore. And then obviously the whole political correctness movement, which has been promoted by mainstream media and educational institutions all over the globe, where we move into an environment where we're all embracing, accepting of everything and everyone, and we're not rigid in terms of certain belief systems and religion and gender, and we level the playing field and we introduce multiculturalism, which really is the end game for the globalists, because it's a whole new way of believing, a whole new way of thinking, and a whole new way of living. Now, having said all these things, we can see this move very clearly being played out. And yet the globalists need America because they are the superpower. And America are key to the ultimate implementation of the globalist plan. But I don't think any of them thought that Donald Trump would have come to power. And so from the moment he stepped into that office, he was targeted. And they try to impeach him. They've done everything they can to remove him. And yet I believe that Donald Trump, despite his character and who he is as a person, be that as it may, when you look at his policies and the things he stands for, he is a total hindrance to the globalist agenda. And I believe he's like a King Cyrus that God has raised up in these last days. And I believe the church have been afforded the opportunity, if our eyes are open, to understand and to see that we have limited time. If Trump is removed in November, there will be a radical escalation of the globalist agenda, and America will be at the forefront of that agenda. What we're seeing playing out in America right now is very much the globalists who are behind all those things that are taking place. Even things like the funding of Black Lives Matter and Antifa is through George Soros, who is one of the greatest globalist proponents. Now, when you look at Trump, Trump is anti-globalist. He's withdrawn and pulled funding in various aspects from the United Nations and the World Health Organization. He is a nationalist. He's endeavored to rebuild the nation and instill nationalistic pride back in the nation again. And this is what the globalists are against. They do not want America to have that nationalistic pride and to be great again. I want to just warn us as the church. We're seeing this push of socialism throughout the world, and there's different types of socialism. I appreciate Cuba, Venezuela, how that thing fell apart, but yet look at the socialism within Europe, where people are taxed and their benefits to being taxed, free education, free health, free a lot of things. And when you consider the implementation ultimately of the mark of the beast, how easy will it be if we are socialist and people, if they're wanting to receive free health or education or whatever grant and assistance from the state, well then you've got to receive the mark. And so who's going to not want to receive the mark and forego all those benefits? We've been pushed into a society where we're going to be deeply dependent upon the state and the globalists in the end. And so my challenge to the church is look at what's going on. realize the urgency of the hour. If Trump does not stay in the office in November, understand this, church, that we are literally at the door. A rapid escalation of the globalist agenda, because everything's in place. It's just Trump who's hindering this thing right now. And if he's removed, very quickly will they implement their agenda, and their agenda is anti-Christian. By virtue of them wanting political correctness, wanting the whole thing of liberalism and multiculturalism, we will be targeted as the Church of Jesus Christ. And so it's time for us to wake up, to be persuaded about what we believe, and to be willing to make a stand, knowing that Jesus is even at the door.